Okay, lot of day for everybody. A lot of food you don't do it. How people have How do you?
Okay, so now with our line art having the threshold brand on it, we are left with just black pixels and white pixels. No in between, no aliasing, no fuzzies, none of that. Now, here's some magic. How do you color underneath? So, so you on your line art layer with all of the white, you go to your layer settings and change it to multiply. That's it. So now we get to do the fun part of flatting. And that means filling in large areas with solid shape, with solid colors. Which means getting your lasso tool, which is L on the keyboard, and you want to make sure your feathering is at 0 and your anti-aliasing up top is set unchecked. You want to deselect that to make sure it's not on. And then the fun part, you just take and you start drawing around your character, and you want to try to remain in the middle of your lines. And I like to start flatting by filling in the largest shape first. So I'm going to just do her body. Maybe a little bit of the hair. Go ahead and knock it out. Now, obviously, I'm on Cintiq, so I can use the freeform lasso tool to just draw my shapes around. But before I had a Cintiq, I used a mouse and the polygonal lasso tool. So I clicked thousands upon thousands of times to mask everything out. I wore out several mices when I was doing color flatting for hi-fi all those years ago. Several hundred, if not thousands, of pages of color flatting will do that to your mouse. So I like to zoom way in. You don't really need to, but it's just force of habit from when I did this years ago on old CRT monitors. And this is definitely the most boring part of the entire process, but it's also important because it will make printing much easier when we get to that point. I usually do this part off stream, but for this video, because I'm recording this for YouTube, I want to do the entire process, kind of start to finish here. Alright, so we just keep basically outlining our character here. And now we can go in and finish our hair up. And if you do a little bit you didn't mean to, just hold Alt, and that will allow you to subtract from it. And I have the little keyboard on screen so you can see what it is I'm actually pushing. Okay, so now that I have the figure there, now and subtract the parts of the clothing I do not need to recolor. And again, just holding in Alt so I can make my subtractions. Okay, so because her shirt is all one piece of clothing, I should keep it all the same color, but because her right side is in shadow, I'm actually going to just kind of change that a little bit. So that just helps out later on when I start rendering. I can select one side and not the other. But normally when you're flattening, you want to keep all of your materials that are, say, the same color. And see, now I'll just add that back in. And now, like where her right hand overlaps her chest, I'm going to make that a different tone. So when I render it, I can do them separately. So what I want to do, just quickly go back around. I'm going to keep her skin face already what I have it, and I will. Actually, yeah, I'll worry about that later. And because the face takes more rendering than like the chest, I'm going to separate it also. Of course, the hair. Then I just hit Control U to pull up these hue saturation sliders, which of course is not showing up. So now let's make that a little different. Now you can use any colors you want with color flatting. It does not matter. You can make these all different shades of blue, pink. It doesn't matter. It's just to keep all of your various parts separated so when you start rendering, you can select just those specific areas to render. Now, if this was a regular page of a comic book with like story panels, I probably would not be zoomed in this tight because it's never going to be viewed up close like this. But because this is a poster, it's going to be printed rather large. I want to make sure I have all of the details exactly how they should be. Yeah, I have to zoom out every now and again to make sure I'm where I think I am. The fun thing about drawing and then coloring your stuff is they've already spent 12 hours staring at it. You kind of know where everything is. Okay, so now we can adjust her hair using the hue saturation sliders. Just make it a little darker, it doesn't matter. Now I have her lips, and we can, yeah. I usually make my flat colors similar to what my rendered colors are going to be, just makes it easier on me, but again, you don't have to. Okay, so now we have the bigger shapes, we can go in and start doing smaller shapes, and when you're doing things like eyeballs, teeth, you do not want to use straight white. You want to kind of, like in the color picker up here on the right hand side, just a little ways down, just like a slight gray. But again, your colors in this stage do not matter. It's just personal preference. So we can do some blue eyes. These highlights, I'm going to go ahead and brighten those up a little bit. And now what I like to do is when colors overlap like this, I make sure my selection overlaps, and then I use my magic wand, which is W on the keyboard. Again, tolerance set to 0, and anti-aliasing deselected. And now you can see why we set the lasso anti-aliasing to deselect, because you have this very crisp selection. No fuzzies. And then we can make her a little. And now and quickly come in here. There's going to be a design here later on. I'll fill it in. And just to make things easy, I like to use whatever the lip color is or the nail color. That way I can just render everything at the same time, and I'll change them later, but I can just render them at the same time. It's just one of those things I like to do to keep things easy. And then we hit W for the wand again. We hold in Alt to deselect. Now we have only the fingernail selected, and we fill them in. Here into these real quick. Alright, so now this little phone case, which we're not really going to see because of the lens flare, but we'll go ahead and give it some attention. And because of the shading I did it when I drew it, I don't even really need to color it because the line art just completely obscures it. That may or may not have been done on purpose. And we'll just make it more of a gray color. Two characters, let's see. It's going to be covered up by the lens flare. Again, this isn't really going to be seen, but just for completion's sake. Okay, so we have our figure almost completely flatted now. So you can see if you turn off the line art layer, we have a really janky looking coloring, but it's exactly what we need to render. You know what? I think I'm going to make these sleeves. And this bit here. A different color when I render it. I don't know, I might make it all one color. This might be a waste of time, but at least this way I'll be prepared. Again, just using the magic wand tool to deselect those areas I've already done, and we'll just U-shift that. And I guess we'll just say the whole thing is part of the sleeve. Now we should have every little part separated and ready for coloring. Now, I could do the bun and the bang. I'm actually, let's do the front bangs separately. Maybe I'll make them a different color when I do this. Just in this case, give myself the option later on. So, see, I missed this. Did we hit all of our bits and parts? I could separate this pocket. Oh, I could do this too. Okay, so now I think, not sure what that is. No, see, I know what it is. I know how I did it. But that's okay. It just knock that out real quick, like it never happened. Okay, so we have a absolutely gorgeous looking illustration. Isn't that phenomenal? I hope this is what Twitch decides to use as the thumbnail for the stream, because that will draw everyone in. I clearly know what I'm doing. Okay, so now that we have our flats done, we want to hit Control J to duplicate them, and then we'll rename it renders. So now we'll have our line art layer, our renders, and our flats. And we will only be working on the render layer from now on. Flats will be there if we need to reference back a specific area to change. So now, because we're going to be rendering this, let's go all in right. That's a little much. So I'm trying to set the midtones for her skin. Is what I'm going to do is if I can do this real quick. Okay, so I have a brush set to screen with opacity 50% and flow at 50%. And just a real quick example, see how this works. Oh, I didn't do that one. Yeah. So you use brush at the screen, it's going to add the highlights, make the tones. And since the flash is supposed to be a light source here, just quickly, but not keeping this, by the way. It just gives you an idea of how the screen effect on your brush will help you add your highlights, which is why you want your starting color to be kind of like your midtones. What we're going to do is add a new layer, set it to multiply, and then keep that at 50%. And that's going to be our shadows. So I can come in here real quick. See, it gives that in. The impression of an easy shadow there. Now let's see. Again. Yeah. Not going to get too crazy here. Especially with these hard edges that this lasso tool gives you. So I'm going to go back in a little bit. Do so now we've got Hmm. Okay, so now back to the body. How do I want to? Oh, do I want? Uh, let's see what this does. That's a little too. Uh, so for the highlights, instead of using just the color picker for her skin tone, I usually go with a light yellow color to use. It just gives a little more vibrancy. And then these shadows are just like a guide right now for me because I'm going to go back in later with purple again and a darker brown and like an orangey color to really make them more dynamic. For now, I'm just let's try. We'll just do. Little flares, little bits, little. I really like that. Let's grab. Now you don't want to get too light because then the skin's going to look gray. So, mm, yeah, even on, yeah, OBS is making it look a little. Mm, mm. Oh well. Alright, so now. Okay. Yeah, and the background is just going to be black. I probably should have changed that earlier to make it more apparent of what I was trying to do. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's crazy how OBS doesn't actually. Yeah, the colors are just not the same as to what I'm actually doing. Hmm. And now where I've gone in with the soft brush and made the shadows, I want to use the lasso tool to give some of these shadows a harsh edge. Hmm. So a lot of what I do when I'm coloring is second guessing myself. It really is. I'll be like, nah, ooh, ah, maybe, no, yes. Um, yeah, it's crazy how it looks. Hmm, I don't know. Maybe the YouTube video will look right. Just throwing me off. Okay, so we've got the chest rendered. This is what that looks like isolated. Looks a, looks a little better than the flat colors. So now we can move on to face. Make sure your brush is still set to screen because it likes to reset itself. Uh, Again, I'm just using that light yellow for the highlights here. Just adding that's a little too much. Again, it's probably not showing up on there, but can you even see that on there? So I added a subtle highlight to, even though it's, I mean, okay, so the back of the hand would not be getting really any light because of the flash, but I'm adding it to it just to give it some a little bit of flare, but it's not really showing up on. I can't wait to watch this back and see how different it all looks. Like, there wouldn't really be any light over there, but you know, throwing some in there. Yeah. All right, so this will actually mostly be in shadow, but I'm going to add just a little layer in here because in there. And I'm pretty sure I've not said, but when you have your brush, you can use your bracket keys, which you'll see on the screen. Oh no, all the bracket keys are not. Oh, they're not part of the keyboard on screen. Oh, well. Hmm. So the bracket keys will decrease, increase. I really don't. Well, I have one. Hmm. Don't know what this is going to be. Oh, no, not that much. And I got away from me. Computer's starting to lag, so it's causing problems with seeing when I've rendered. What, been an hour? Yeah, an hour. Computer's not being happy right now. Yeah, skin tone just looks so blah on OBS. Even just a little, I don't know. It just want to give a little bit of a red to the nose, not. Hmm. That probably does not even show up on your screen. So that's what we have rendered so far. Then without the line art, not looking too bad. Looks a little weird without the line art, but then we have, you know, we could do more. What if... let's see. Let me see. Try. Yeah. Hmm. So remember earlier when I said I spend the majority of my time second guessing myself? Welcome to that. So you know what? Let's give her some different hair instead of just brown, or we'll give her like a poison ivy type of look, green with red hair. Hmm. I could definitely do more with the highlights from the flash if I really wanted to. And more with the shadows. I wonder if... I think that's... Yeah, wrong layer. See, on that, I could make it, really play with the light. Hmm. 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 wheel, then get our texture brush again, get her set back to screen. 50. Go ahead. Just brushing in a few little highlights with that light yellow color that I used for the skin. So just to kind of have it, match a little bit. Uh, Make that a little better. I really wish the hue saturation slider would show up on the screen. You can see how I'm messing around and testing and trying different things here. Hmm. If I draw some funky little shapes for the light pattern. Take maybe we come in. Now because the texture of her shirt is rough, I don't really have to make solid, neat selections. I can just make little blobs. Because her fabric is rough. So light would be bouncing all over the place. Uh, Slightly paint over with our hello. Let me go back in over the top of it. And make like a double selection. We have a brighter center. And always trying to make your selections go with the fabric and the way the light would be hitting it. Because while we're not, while I'm not going for complete realism, still needs to have like a basis in reality, though. At least a semblance of reality. Add a few more little highlights. And I think for the shadows, I'll probably use like maybe like a darker bluish purple in the green. Let's see. There's a random purple. Now, obviously, not going to leave it like that. Hmm. Hmm. Well, not too shabby. But again, I spend the majority of my time second guessing myself, so. Okay, my computer is starting to freak out, so I believe this episode will end here. So we went over how to import your line art, how to make sure the line art stays crisp, set your layer to multiply so you can color underneath, and then your lasso tools and wand set to 0 tolerance and anti-alias deselected. Now, next time around, we will work more on light and shadow and form. Assuming the computer cooperates, because that's a toss-up. Alright, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.